been blessed to know the kids from the beginning and since they were babies till now. And it's just heartbreaking.
They were very good in helping the community. And
they were a wonderful family. We felt like they were part of our family.
In the quiet, rolling fields of Lake Township, Ohio, where morning mist clings to freshly cut grass and children's laughter echoes through tree-lined streets, the Dunham family seemed to embody everything good about small-town America. Their modest home on Carnation Avenue, with its carefully tended garden and basketball hoop in the driveway, told the story of a family living the dream that so many chase but few truly catch. Melissa Dunham was the kind of woman who made success look effortless, though anyone who knew her understood the years of hard work that built her remarkable career. Born and raised in Ohio's heartland, she carried herself with the quiet confidence of someone who had earned every accolade that came her way. Her journey began in the classrooms of Westminster College, where she first discovered her gift for numbers and financial strategy. But Melissa wasn't content with just one degree. She pushed herself further, earning an MBA from Kent State University, then adding a Master of Taxation from the University of Akron to her impressive collection of credentials. At Bober Markey Fedorovic, known simply as BMF in accounting circles, Melissa found her professional home. For 18 years, she poured her heart into her work, building relationships with clients and earning recognition that extended far beyond her firm's walls. Her achievements included the Woman of Professional Excellence Award from the Women's Network and the prestigious 30 for the Future Award from the Greater Akron Chamber. These weren't just certificates to hang on a wall, they represented the respect of her peers and recognition of her exceptional skills. In June 2023, just 2 months before her world would end, Melissa reached the pinnacle of her career when she was named partner at BMF. The announcement spoke of her nearly 2-decade journey with the firm, her dedication to clients across diverse industries, and her role in tax planning strategies that helped businesses thrive. At 42, she stood at the peak of her professional life, with what seemed like limitless potential stretching ahead. But success in the boardroom was only part of Melissa's story. At home, she was a mother who threw herself into her children's lives with the same passion she brought to her career. Whether she was helping the girls sell Girl Scout cookies door to door or encouraging them to write thank you notes to every customer, Melissa taught her children that success came through hard work and treating others with kindness. Her husband Jason remained more of a mystery, even to those who lived just steps away from their front door. At 46, he worked in sales and business development for a company called POS Highway, a position that provided a solid income but lacked the prestige and recognition that Melissa's career commanded. Whether this difference created tension between them, no one could say for certain. Jason kept to himself, rarely engaging with neighbors beyond polite waves and the occasional helping hand with a basketball hoop installation. Their 3 children were the bright stars that made the Dunham family shine in their community's eyes. Renee, 15, was in 9th grade and brought music to life as part of the school band. She was a tomboy at heart, the kind of girl who found joy in raking leaves without being asked, who could work with her hands and wasn't afraid to get dirty. Her friends and neighbors saw in her a young woman who was comfortable in her own skin, unafraid to be different in a world that often demanded conformity. Amber, 12, was everything her older sister wasn't: girly, generous, and gifted with a baker's touch that made her the neighborhood darling. Her cupcakes, decorated with bright frosting and delivered with a smile that could light up the gloomiest day, became a regular treat for the Gacko family next door. She was also a talented athlete, excelling in cross-country running while maintaining her involvement in Girl Scouts and the school band alongside her sister. 9-year-old Evan was the baby of the family, but his mind worked with the precision of someone much older. Recently discovered passion for Legos revealed a boy who loved to build, to solve puzzles, to figure out how things fit together. His ability to solve a Rubik's Cube in under 2 minutes amazed adults and left other children staring in wonder. In Boy Scouts, he was learning lessons about leadership and community service that seemed to come naturally to all the Dunham children. The family's 2 dogs completed the picture, bounding through the yard as the children played fetch, their happy barks mixing with squeals of laughter that carried on summer breezes. Video game sessions brought all 3 siblings together indoors, their friendly competition and shared jokes creating the soundtrack of a happy childhood that their neighbors envied. But beneath this picture of domestic bliss, something was beginning to shift in the late summer of 2023. Rebecca Joy, a neighbor who had watched the Dunham children grow up, noticed it first. Every morning for years, the 3 children had waved to her from their bus stop, their bright faces and cheerful greetings becoming part of her daily routine. Suddenly, those waves stopped coming. The children seemed to vanish from the outdoor spaces where they had once spent countless hours. The Gackos, Edmund and Denise, who lived right next door and had become like extended family to the Dunhams, felt the change even more acutely. For years, the Dunham children had been regular visitors, playing with the Gacko grandchildren and bringing over Amber's famous cupcakes. But in those final weeks of August, the visits stopped. The colorful treats no longer appeared at their door. The sounds of children playing in the backyard grew quiet. Something was wrong in the Dunham house, though no one could say exactly what. Had Jason's controlling nature, hinted at by neighbors who noticed his tendency to have the final word, finally crossed a line? Was there trouble in the marriage that the couple had managed to hide from their community? The questions would haunt everyone who knew them, because the answers died with the family. On August 23, 2023, Melissa Dunham failed to show up for work, something that would have been unthinkable just days earlier. For a woman who had built her career on reliability and excellence, who had never taken an unannounced day off in 18 years, her absence sent immediate ripples of concern through the BMF offices. Her colleagues tried calling, sending texts, reaching out in every way they could think of. But Melissa's phone remained silent. When she didn't appear the next day either, concern turned to alarm. This wasn't like Melissa. This wasn't like the dedicated professional who had just been named partner, who was known for her punctuality and work ethic. Something was desperately wrong. At 7:30 p.m. on August 24, 2023, police officers arrived at the Dunham home on Carnation Avenue to conduct a welfare check. The sight that greeted them told a story of abandonment. Both cars sat in the driveway, suggesting the family hadn't gone anywhere, but days' worth of mail had piled up outside. Packages lay scattered across the lawn, letters formed small mountains near the front door, and the general appearance was of a home whose occupants had simply vanished. But they hadn't vanished. They were inside, and they weren't coming to the door because they couldn't. Edmund Gacko, the neighbor who had watched these children grow up, who had helped Jason install that basketball hoop years earlier, assisted police in gaining entry to the home. What they found inside would haunt everyone involved for the rest of their lives. The smell of death hit them first, that unmistakable, overwhelming stench that spoke of bodies that had been cooling for days. As officers moved through the house, they discovered 5 bodies, all victims of gunshot wounds. Jason Dunham, 46. Melissa Dunham, 42. Renee, 15. Amber, 12. Evan, 9. An entire family wiped out in what appeared to be an act of domestic violence that had spiraled completely out of control. It took investigators 2 hours to process the scene before officially declaring all 5 family members dead at 9:52 p.m. The investigation that followed painted a horrific picture. There were no signs of forced entry. No evidence that anyone else had been in the house. The only weapon found belonged to the family themselves. Both Jason and Melissa had concealed carry permits, making the presence of a firearm in their home completely legal and unremarkable. Police concluded that this was a domestic dispute that had turned deadly, with Jason Dunham killing his wife and 3 children before turning the gun on himself. But the questions that conclusion raised were almost as disturbing as the crime itself. How had no one heard the gunshots? In a tight-knit community where neighbors knew each other's routines, where children played in each other's yards and families looked out for one another, how had multiple gunshots gone unnoticed? No silencer was found at the scene, which meant the shots should have been loud enough to wake the entire neighborhood. The lack of any history of domestic violence calls made the tragedy even more puzzling. If Jason had been prone to violent outbursts, if there had been screaming matches or physical altercations, surely someone would have heard and reported them. But the police had no record of ever being called to the Dunham home before that final, tragic night. What could have driven Jason Dunham to commit such an unthinkable act? Had financial pressures mounted despite their apparent success? Was there jealousy over Melissa's recent promotion to partner? Had the children, entering their teenage years, begun to challenge his authority in ways he couldn't handle? The man who had seemed like a devoted father, playing baseball with his kids in the front yard just months earlier, had somehow transformed into their killer. The coldness of the crime suggested planning rather than a sudden explosion of rage. To kill 4 people, including 3 children, requires a level of calculation that goes beyond momentary anger. Yet Jason had never shown signs of being capable of such brutality. The contradiction left investigators and the community struggling to understand how such horror could emerge from what appeared to be a normal family life. The news of the tragedy sent shockwaves through every community the Dunhams had touched. At BMF, where Melissa had spent nearly 2 decades building relationships and establishing herself as a rising star, colleagues struggled to process the loss. She wasn't just a partner or a talented accountant. She was a friend who had celebrated successes and weathered challenges alongside them for 18 years. Her empty office became a silent testament to a career cut short and dreams that would never be fulfilled. The children's schools were devastated. Renee had been scheduled to perform with the band at an away game, a trip she would never take. The school district deployed crisis counselors to help students and staff process their grief and confusion. How do you explain to children that their classmates are gone forever, killed by the very person who should have protected them above all others? Edmund Gacko, the neighbor who had watched the Dunham children grow from babies into the remarkable young people they had become, nearly broke down in tears when asked about the family. For 18 years, he had lived next door to them, watching their lives unfold through seasons of growth and change. Just months earlier, he had played baseball with them in their front yard, Jason laughing and coaching the kids as they swung at pitches. Now they were all gone, leaving behind only memories and questions that would never be answered. The community rallied in the way small towns do when tragedy strikes. A candlelight vigil brought together everyone whose lives had been touched by the Dunham family, their flames flickering in the evening air as people shared memories of Melissa's professional kindness, of Renee's tomboyish charm, of Amber's generous spirit, of Evan's brilliant mind. Chief Michael Appel of the Uniontown Police, with 23 years of experience in law enforcement, called it the most gruesome case he had ever encountered. In February 2024, Angelia Lehman, a close family friend, organized the creation of a scholarship in the Dunham family's honor. The scholarship would benefit seniors graduating from Lake High School, ensuring that the family's legacy would live on in something positive rather than being remembered only for the tragedy that claimed their lives. It was a way to honor what the Dunhams had stood for during their lives: community involvement, educational excellence, and the belief that everyone deserves opportunities to succeed. The scholarship criteria reflected the values Melissa had embodied: community outreach, teamwork, and believing in something greater than oneself. In a video she had recorded for the Greater Akron Chamber, just months before her death, Melissa had spoken passionately about her love for Lake Township, about how the schools challenged her children, about the opportunities available even in their small community. Her words, preserved forever in that recording, became a haunting reminder of the dreams and hopes that died with her on that August night. "It's a wonderful community to raise our children," she had said, her voice warm with genuine affection for the place she called home. "I have ties to the community with the organizations that I work with. I love being a part of community support services and the Girl Scouts of Northeast Ohio, and the school districts are amazing. They challenge my children, and it's a great place to live and thrive, and there's many opportunities in the small community." Those words, spoken by a woman who had no idea her time was running out, capture the essence of what was lost on Carnation Avenue. It wasn't just 5 lives that ended that night. It was the destruction of everything they represented. The community involvement Melissa cherished, the bright futures the children were building, the sense of safety and trust that defines small-town life, all of it was shattered by gunshots that no one heard in time to help. The Dunham family murder-suicide remains a case that defies easy explanation. In a world where we search for clear motives and logical reasons, sometimes we are left with only the terrible reality of what happened, not why it happened. Jason Dunham, the man who should have been his family's protector, became their destroyer. The reasons died with him, leaving behind a community forever changed and questions that will never find answers. What we do know is that 5 remarkable lives ended far too soon. Melissa, who had worked so hard to build a career that would make her children proud. Renee, the tomboy who wasn't afraid to be herself. Amber, whose cupcakes brought joy to everyone who tasted them. Evan, whose brilliant mind could solve complex puzzles in minutes. Even Jason, despite his final terrible acts, had been a father who played baseball with his children and helped neighbors with their projects. Their story serves as a reminder that behind every front door, even in the most picture-perfect neighborhoods, families face struggles that the outside world never sees. It reminds us to check on our neighbors, to pay attention when something seems off, and to never assume that a perfect facade means everything is actually perfect inside. The empty house on Carnation Avenue stands as a monument to dreams interrupted, to potential unrealized, and to the fragility of the lives we build. In a community that prided itself on looking out for one another, 5 people died alone, their cries for help, if they ever came, unheard until it was far too late. The Dunham family's story ended in tragedy, but their lives were about so much more than their final moments. They were about Melissa's dedication to excellence, about 3 children discovering who they were meant to become, about a community that embraced them as family. In choosing to remember them for how they lived rather than only how they died, Lake Township keeps their memory alive in the scholarship that bears their name and in the hearts of everyone who knew them. Sometimes the most important stories are the ones that resist easy explanations, that leave us with more questions than answers. The Dunham family tragedy is one of those stories, a reminder that evil can lurk behind the most ordinary facades, and that the people we think we know best can harbor secrets that ultimately destroy everything we thought we understood about them. In the end, all we can do is hold tight to the people we love, pay attention to the warning signs we might miss, and remember that behind every perfect family photo, real people face real struggles that they may be hiding from the world. The Dunham story ended in darkness, but their memory lives on in the light of the scholarship that will help other young people achieve the dreams that Renee, Amber, and Evan will never have the chance to pursue.